of Maine, tourmaline dream, river fed or sponge ire, young sea within a sea.
Quai Quai. This is your co-host at Moccasin Tracks, Rick Hunt. And we have another interview happening, and we will be interviewing David Brule, who has an organization called Nolumbeka, which supposedly is an Abenaki word that means the calm waters between the rapids. David Brule, Nolumbeka Project President, is a member of the Nahantic Tribal Council Project, Mission and Vision Statement. The Nolumbeka Project envisions a Connecticut River Valley where the histories, cultures, and persistence of Northeastern indigenous peoples are recognized and celebrated, and where all beings coexist in balance and reciprocity. We host indigenous presenters sharing their cultures and histories at annual gatherings, as well as at educational programs for the public and in schools. We work to protect and preserve the land, especially the ancient multi-tribal villages, of which Wissatinawak is an integral part. We strive to service as a bridge between cultures and between past and future generations. We work to fulfill our mission and vision as Nolumbeka, the calm water.
We want to welcome David Brule to Moccasin Tracks. Hi, David.
Welcome.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Or is it morning, afternoon it is?
Yeah, right at afternoon. And this is Rick Hunt, co-hosting.
Welcome.
Also working the board over here. Let me tilt it so you can say hi to Carolyn. There she
Way
is.
over there. Hi, Carolyn. Hi. Nice to see you.
It takes a group effort here at Community Radio. And we know that you have a big group effort happening with your group, Nolumbeka. Can you tell us, David, how all that got started?
Well, a couple of things. We're working on two strands right now. The way Nolumbeka started out, going back about 20 years, and then we have our event coming up on Saturday. So the origins of the organization are pretty straightforward. We right now are stewards of a 40-acre site actually located in Greenfield, Massachusetts, right on the Connecticut River. And it is the site of a 10,000-year-old continually inhabited Pocumtuck village. And we have artifacts going back 11 and 12,000 years, believe it or not. What occurred was that site, which is called Wissatinawak, meaning the shining hill, because of the mist from the falls hitting the basalt ledges there, was a village site until King Philip's War and the horrific massacre that happened at the foot of the falls, facing Wissatinawak, facing the land we now are stewards of. And over the hundreds and hundreds of years after that event of May 19th, 1676, that site was exploited in the 40s and 50s for the wonderful pure sands that are found there. And so a local construction company set about excavating. The problem is that they were excavating human remains. They were pulling human indigenous graves out of the sandbank and extracting the sand to use for construction project and separating the skulls and bones and you name it, and then dumping those bones in a swamp nearby, being bulldozed every night. So we are on a total challenge right now as we speak to recover the property, the swamp, the white ash swamp where those human remains were buried. So that's going on. That's the struggle right now. I'm in conversations with the LLC that is still the owner of that undevelopable land, plus it's now a burial ground.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the 1999, because the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act prevented that construction company from mining human remains, the owner was in kind of a jam what to do with all this land. So he decided that a Walmart site would be great for that. So that's when we really got into swing in the late 1990s. And people stood in front of bulldozers. People stopped everything, and eventually we were able to fundraise and buy the land out from under the Walmart Corporation. So now that 10,000, 11,000-year-old village site and burial grounds is under protection in perpetuity. We, the Nolumbeka Project, have the deed to 40 of the acres, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife has another 20 acres abutting us. So we have a beautiful little protected indigenous homeland site. Plus, it's a great place for all the migrating birds that come through, and we have a few species of plants of a special interest, things like that. So that's basically, in a nutshell, where we're at right now. As I said, we're dealing with the current landowner who had originally intended to invite the Walmart Corporation to develop the land that he owns, and so it's. I've gotten signs from the CEO that they're going to be very disposed to turning the deed over to us for the burial ground in the swamp. That said, the other event I mentioned is coming up is the anniversary of the 1676 massacre that happened at the Falls, Great Falls, Peskiomskut, the Thunder Rock place, because the waterfall was so tremendous that it could be heard all the way down to Deerfield, which was Pocumtuck at the time. And when the first colonials came to Deerfield, of course, they could hear the falls, the roaring falls. So on May 19th in 1676, there was a horrific raid led by a man named William Turner, and he brought 150 colonials up to attack a village of non-combatants at the falls. So if you know your King Philip's War history, by the spring of 1676, both sides had just beaten themselves silly. The Narragansetts, the Wampanoags, and the Nipmucks, for the most part, were allied against the Bay Colony, Plymouth, and Hartford. So those were the three united colonies, and both sides were in bad shape. So people at the falls felt that there were peace negotiations going on, but Captain William Turner led a group of colonials up and attacked the non-combatants and killed about 400 people. So what we do every year on the date the closest to the 19th is to have ceremonies that commemorate the victims of that massacre. So that's what's coming up on this Saturday. And we have Elnu Abenaki speakers, Rich Holshoe and Roger Longto, as well as close allies, our close allies, the Chobanagungumog Band of Nipmuc Indians. Several people from the Tribal Council will also speak, along with Joe Gravelin, who is a local historian and Abenaki descendant. So there I covered those two strands in record time, but that's kind of gives people information and food for thought.
It's wonderful how you are working together with so many of the nations there on the East Coast, and of course we're in the traditional Western Abenaki territory here, where we're broadcasting from, and we like to always acknowledge that. also co-hosting here with Abnaki family, Rick and Carolyn
Excellent.
Hunt. So
Excellent. Yes.
we feel those, connections
Right.
all the way in our hearts. So
Yes, we're among partners and allies for sure.
we really appreciate your work, and we've been watching so many of your events happening that you share generously on social media. People can find you on the Facebook, and you have your website. You've got later in the summer a really big event that I was hoping that we could talk about the powwow a little bit, because it really takes a grand effort to have something like that, and years to build up something that happens so successfully. And I was wondering if you could, talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Yes, well, we have what we call the Pakumtuk Homelands Festival. We've kind of leaned away from calling it a powwow because, if anything, it's intertribal, and we don't have a particular sponsoring tribe there. However, the Nolumbeka project prides itself in being non-tribal. I have membership in the Nahantic tribal. I'm a member of the Nahantic Tribal Council. We are the people of the estuary of the Connecticut River, right where the Connecticut meets Long Island Sound. But others also have some ancestry. But basically, we are a non-tribal organization. The word Nolumbeka, being, I believe, Abenaki, means basically a calm stretch of water between two rapids. So that kind of typifies what we do. We are go-betweens. We are in between tribal people and non-tribal people. And one of the best ways to bring those two communities together has been this music festival that we're in our 10th year now. It is on the shore of the Connecticut River, within 5 feet of the riverbank, in a town called Turner's Falls. Unfortunately, that site was named almost 250 years after the massacre by some well-meaning, I suppose, historians and developers, and they felt that William Turner, who died in that particular battle, that massacre, and the counterattack that is underreported oftentimes. He died in the attack, so someone in the 1850s thought it would be a good idea to call the falls after him. And again, part of the erasure and, of course, the neglect is that they didn't commemorate or mention the hundreds of people who lost their lives thanks to this man, Turner. But be that as it may, so our festival is on the riverbank across the river from the massacre site. And the massacre site is in the town of Gill, in a neighborhood called Riverside. It's a very beautiful site now. And we have been working mightily to remove the dark feeling that has persisted there at the falls. And one of our closest allies is a man named Doug Harris, who used to work, he is retired now, but he worked for the Nahantic Tribal Historic Preservation Office. And he basically said that through our efforts and labor, we have helped release those spirits who were stuck at the falls and what he called in their hour of greatest torment. So those spirits have been released and have been able now to continue their spiritual journey to the Southwest. But he also reminded us all that the work wasn't done. So when I present at the commemoration day, I do remind people that they don't have to be sad. It's not a sad day. It is a day of celebration and remembrance. And we are all working to continue to lift the spirits, lift literally and figuratively at that site. So our festival is right on the banks across from the site where the tragedy happened. But I'll tell you, the first festival that we had, it was incredibly moving because we had the Abenaki drums
Mhm.
and the great drums, Brian Blanchett
Mhm.
and the Blackhawks. Incredible emotions. You hear these huge, great drums booming up and down the river and up into the village of Turner's Falls, through the streets, through the trees. Just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And that has been part of the healing. Part of the healing is bringing people together. Over 3,000 people come to interact with 40 or 50 vendors from all nations. We have a good 30 nations represented, and typically year in, year out, about 6 invited tribes to present their music, their stories. A great visitor has been Tom Porter from the Akwesasne, and he just holds forth for hours. It's just so wonderful. And any number of people. We've had people from the Diné Navajo Nation, and obviously the Narragansetts and Wampanoags and Nipmuc and Abenaki. So it's a wonderful experience. It's going to be the first Saturday and Sunday of August this year, and it's free. And so Diane Dix is our event coordinator, and she works all year to raise the funds. So it's a $30,000, $40,000 undertaking that she finds the money every year. So that's what's going on. It's wonderful. She does a wonderful job.
Yeah, a lot of people working behind the scenes to, put on an event like that. It's really quite an effort. Some of the tribes, the state recognized tribes in Vermont, are working on their own land, and those kinds of events eventually hopefully will happen in Vermont. But it's something to think about. Like, it takes years to really plan and organize something like that.
Right, exactly. So it's as I said, being a non-tribal group, what we tend to do well is to do grant funding. We find the money and we reach out to the tribes and bring in people 4 times a year to do events at the falls. And so we're kind of a pass-through, rather unique situation. And we're very successful at it. We don't claim to speak for any of the tribes, but we do find ways to bring these people to the sites and to share the culture and music and crafts.
Yeah, so. Well, of course, here at radio, we're always trying to get people behind the mic. It's get the voices,
get the word out, right, in the voices,
of the people to actually speak for themselves. And when I started this radio show, there wasn't that place where So we still work with that. Rick, do you have a question for David?
Hi, David. Welcome to our show.
Yeah, great to be here.
It's an honor to have you here. I had not heard of the August event until Deb just mentioned it.
Yeah,
it's that's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, it's an incredible vibe. It's just great. Yeah.
Wow.
And what we've done, just let me riff on that. What we've done in the last 3 or 4 years was to host a Michun paddle, so a dugout canoe that we crafted one of the festivals, and it was a 3-day burn, and even then it wasn't quite finished, but we were burning day and night right on the banks of the river, and it was the Wampanoag, Aquina Wampanoag, Jonathan Perry, and a crew, Dan Spears, who is also Abenaki, and a number of people were just watching it day and night for 3 days and 3 nights. And so the following year, we put it in the water. And every year to open the festival, we paddle up the Connecticut, typically up to about the area that we call the French King Bridge, and then back down. So that's that's just the opening, and so it's just a great, and it's an open invitation to anybody who wants to join us through the kayaks or canoes or other machines.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. And that starts the day of the event or before?
So the event opens officially Saturday and Sunday, but we do the paddle on Friday morning.
Great.
So typically it's, there's about 30 kayaks and we've had a Nipmuc Michoon as well as the Wampanoag craft.
Nice.
And I'm particularly proud of that because it's exactly, we go right by my boyhood home. I was born and raised right there, right on the banks of the river. Spent most of my, 20 years on right there. And so we paddle right past my home, and I just feel great about that.
That's wonderful.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I might just point out too, if I could, is the what I mentioned, the massacre in the horrific state of affairs there in King Philip's War. One of the things that our tribal partners have participated in is the National Park Service study of that massacre. I don't know if the word has reached you. We've been doing it for 10 years. So the Park Service, through all those different presidents, still provided us with funds to hire archaeologists to study the massacre site and the counterattack, which is underreported because the natives, of course, were very, very angered by the gunshots and what they heard and people dying across the river from them. So the soldiers and native soldiers were camped where the festival takes place. The non-combatants, the elderly and the women and children, were across the river. And when Turner's people descended upon that refugee camp, they met little resistance because the soldiers were camped where, anticipating a worthy adversary, of course. They were not expecting the English to attack the undefended. So the Park Service granted us, now we're up about $250,000 now over the 10 years, to hire archaeologists to study those events. And we have produced a tremendous amount of new information as to what happened that day. But one of my favorite, and I'm the most proud of, is that in pursuing this study, we formed an advisory board, and the advisory board is made up of historical commissioners in Massachusetts. These are people who are true commissioners under Massachusetts general law to serve to protect historical sites. So we have five commissioners from the towns where the murderous attack occurred, approach and retreat routes. And I wrote to at least 7 tribes to get them to participate and to send in a letter of support to the Park Service. And so we have been meeting every month for 10 years with 5 commissioners and give or take 4 to 5 tribal historic preservation officers, all at the same table.
Wow.
And going over what the archaeologists have found, interpreting it, and of course you have different perspectives on the native people. The native tribal historic preservation officers are in the field with the archaeologists, looking over their shoulders. So people from the El Nu Abenaki, like Rich Holshoe and Roger, have been present in those cases, as well as people from the 2 coastal tribes, the federally recognized tribes, and the Chibunagungumag band of Nipmucs. So I'm particularly proud of that. We're starting our 11th year now. We just got another round of grants, and in the summer we're going to do more archaeological explorations to finish off tracking the 7-mile long battlefield.
Oh, wow. Is any of that work published or archived?
It's on the Town of Montague website. You can Google Town of Montague, and there are 2 technical reports. Basically, the from A to Z about King Philip's War and all the artifacts that were found, including photographs of the 600 musket balls from that day,
Oh, wow.
and the analysis being done at the University of Connecticut labs as to the lead content and origins and type of rifle it was fired from and what it hit. It's just fascinating work.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we got the definitive investigation of that particular day.
Yeah, I love how you have the town involved and archiving this information. So
Yes, yeah. The
that's
town of
really,
Montague, town of Montague applied for the grant and is the host town. And so we meet in the town of Montague, right within sight of the battlefield. So it's been very moving to work with everyone, and it's been an incredible healing process.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Doug Harris is really wonderful about doing this, getting towns involved and and finding ways to protect these sites.
Right. It's quite an undertaking. He's doing well these days. He's been under the weather and had plenty of health issues, but the last word was a great photograph of him sitting up with thumbs up. So
great. We were able to record and video him. He was in Vermont once, a couple years ago. Fascinating work. We really have always enjoyed talking with him. And
he's such a diplomat for indigenous people everywhere.
Just that those sites are being protected and acknowledged and is really important.
Well, there's such a hunger for information too. Each time, I mean, we started these kind of river walk along a bike path along the shore of the Connecticut, and we were astounded. The first time we did it, there were like 90 people there. And we were saying, well, we'd be lucky if we have 30. But the hunger for information is great. So the next year I brought a step ladder so I could get up above the heads and be able to shout out. And then we got a clue and got voice amplifiers and all of that. But we were just taken aback by the desire to know because of the erasure. The erasure was so successful that people just couldn't imagine. And Roger and Rich of the Elnu have just reminded us that, more often than not, people say, "Oh no, there are no more Indians in Vermont. They're all gone." So, not the case.
Not the case, indeed. And we're looking forward to a walk that is being planned along the Connecticut River. And we'll have more information on that as soon as protocols get finished. But the website for that is waterislifewalks.org. So many times things like that, the canoe trip, anything along the water can really bring in different folks.
Right.
Because everyone is really knowing. I think Standing Rock really helped too. The whole concept, water is life. And bringing people together from all walks of life to support that. And
I agree totally. It's a wonderful convergence right now of great and strong personalities and a lot of momentum, especially among the younger people. It's really, I'm glad that we are here to be able to witness that and participate in it.
Rick, what do we have planned for, acknowledging water?
You just mentioned the water walk, which is one thing, obviously. And
we're not hearing you so good because you're far away.
Hello.
There you go.
Water has become a central symbol of of how we have to survive. Water is the planet's blood. I mean, it nurtures everything. And
Yep, and I love that we often get to interview musicians who, share their songs about water. I love the water walkers who have come from many different tribes. Grandmother Josephine is one who, the Anishinaabe woman who really walked so many miles with her prayer in her heart and carrying the water, the idea of carrying pure water from its source and gifting it back to the river along the way is a beautiful ritual ceremony that happens in so many of the water walks. And
we have a natural resource here that I don't think too many people know about. And he is a man named Steve Herbert. He lives in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, and is a world-renowned dowser. He found fresh water wells, and I think it was Ghana. He was in the Peace Corps.
Oh, really?
And he found, wells in the middle of the desert. And there's been a lot of articles written about him, and he does speaking, but I don't hear a lot of the water workers talk about dowsing that much. And he is certainly a natural resource here.
It's an unbelievable, what I call a gift.
It's a gift.
And he has traveled the world finding clean water for all kinds of communities.
That's a good idea for
I know we should
talk on our radio show sometime.
Exactly.
Right? Glad we pulled that out of you. David, it's really been an honor to talk to you today. I need to just say you are listening to North Country Community Radio, WZNC LP Bethlehem. And this show is called Moccasin Tracks. My host, Rick Hunt, and myself, Deb Rigger. Our guest, David Brule, is sharing with us so much information about his group. And we're really appreciating the work that they do, Nolumbeka. And, we do have to wrap it up soon, David, but I want to make sure that we've covered everything. You've got your events happening and, what would you like our listeners to take away from this conversation today?
Wow, I guess I don't know. There's just so much going on. I guess that it would be. I'm sure there are any number of websites, but certainly if people are interested in what's going on in the Connecticut River Valley, in the Middle Connecticut River Valley here, they could check out the Nolumbeka Project website, because there's again, our events coordinator is also the person who posts all this information coming in from the west and coming in from the north and south, and she is a great source of information and events coming up. Two quick things that when we were talking about water, it's probably not new to you, but I like to remind people to consider something simple is, what is your river address? Yeah, you might live in Montague, you might live in Littletown, you might live in who knows where, but what's the river near you? I live in a little podunk town called Miller's Falls, and I use the Bagwag River as my river address. So oftentimes I tell people that and a Bagwag means basically clean river flowing through cleared lands. So part of my personal effort has been to find the native place names, revive those. I remind people especially when I'm speaking in the Franklin County here, I say, well, you've got the Pocumbagon right near you. That is the Green River. Somebody named it the Green River, but the Pagwag knows its name. It's only been changed to the last 400 years, but it would remember its name. So when you go to the Pagwag, or when you go to the Pocumbagon, or the Pocumpituk, or the Owanastok, or the Quenectakut, then, or Quenetekwa in the Abenaki, then you use those names. You say, hello, river. I know who you are. The river knows.
Mhm.
So those are things that keep me going during my day.
That's beautiful. Yeah, wonderful to remember that. Amanusik is the river
Yeah.
that we're on.
Right. And the river would sing its name when it hears it again after 10,000 years of being called that. To have be called something else is kind of a travesty, but anyway, you get my point.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Rick, do you have any closing comments?
Yes, I want to say thank you for being on our show. It's an honor to have you on here. I hope that you'll come back sometime with more information. And thank you.
Thank you for that. You can tell I've accumulated a whole bunch of stories, just much like you, I'm sure. But I love to share that because there are a lot of people who just are hungry for the information and don't know where to go. You know,
You're doing important work.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do. It's really wonderful.
Thank you for inviting me to this program. It's great to be able to share some information.
Oh yeah, we'll have you back for sure.
Great. Yeah, keep me in mind.
Next month we're going to have Jennifer Lee on.
Oh yes, right. I just was on a Zoom with Jennifer a few minutes ago. We're working like crazy, talking about the festival and everything else. So yeah. And
we've invited another Abenaki person to sit in on that, who's a bead worker, Rhonda Bisol. So that should be a fun, fun time for us all. And we really appreciate your work, and we'll share on social media about the events coming up, and we'll also make this interview available for people to listen in case they haven't heard it live today.
Excellent.
So, thank you, David.
Thank you
really
very
nice
much.
to meet you.
Same here.
See you in person sometime.
Yes, for sure. Come down in August. So I'll be there. So hopefully you'll make it. It's a wonderful festival. So
okay.
All right. Looking forward to seeing you again in person.
Same here.
Adios.
Bye now.
Bye.